Hi everybody, good to see you all here today and to be able to take this time just to share some information about some of our products and also a topic which at the moment, I'm picking up a lot of this in the health coaching that I'm doing, but there's also a lot of information right now at the moment. There's a whole discussion going on between Prof. Noakes and a number of other high-profile cardiologists about cholesterol and what's actually causing the problem, and in fact, relating to statins and so on. It's a very interesting discussion, a lot of good clinical research that is currently coming out, and also with Prof. Noakes having recently written a book again on carbs and his whole take on the carb solution and how he has changed what he believes. But it's really, really interesting. And I think one of the really interesting things about the whole situation relating to cholesterol as well, from the way that we used to look at it to what we see now and what the real results, real life results, and what the clinical research is showing us. And for me, the most important thing is looking at evidence. It's not just what is said, but let's look at the evidence and see what's actually happening. And that's what I think is important. I think what I want to try and do today is just look at it from a really practical perspective and what's applicable that you can in actual fact use in talking about cholesterol, the real story and practical real solutions relating to products that we have in the Neolife range. So what we really need to understand is that cholesterol is not the enemy. So, why are so many people still at risk? And, it's so interesting of late as well. I've seen, and we've had two very unfortunate deaths within our community recently of two guys who ran literally every single day of their lives. And both of them passed away while they were running. And everybody says, well, they were so healthy, they ran every day of their lives, they were fit, and people are fit. But I think the thing that we've really got to make sure that we look at is that fitness is not just that physical thing. We've got to look at what's actually happening within the body and more at the metabolic side of it. And we'll deal with a fair amount of it and help to explain also as far as this whole thing about the cholesterol myth and what is really actually going on and what is research showing us currently. Most people think cholesterol actually causes the heart disease and the problem, but the truth really is cholesterol is actually trying to protect the body. It's not what's causing the problem at the end of the day. It's responding to something that's happening in the body. So, the real question at the end of the day is, what is it protecting us from? And if we look at the real problem and why it matters, because this is what matters to the people that you interact with and you are talking to about the products and what's actually happening to them and the things that are real to them. And that's where, we see the need, and that's what we deal with. We try and find out what that is and what we can do to solve the problem and the pain that they are experiencing. Heart disease is a leading global killer, and throughout the world it's a major problem. You have a look in terms of the World Health statistics and you look at what sits pretty high at the top of the morbidity and what causes a lot of the death, and what we're seeing today, in fact, a lot of earlier deaths than we should be seeing. And there are a lot of other reasons for that as well. And many people have what we call as normal cholesterol, but somehow they still seem to be and are at risk. So what are the reasons for that? They're experiencing things like fatigue and weight gain. It's a big problem. That's another huge problem. 70%. We're getting closer to the 70% marks within the world of obesity. There's a lot of talk you hear of this thing, brain fog. You often hear that, and that's, as I mentioned or intimated to earlier, related or linked to this thing, metabolic dysfunction. It's quite interesting as well. In the last few months, I've taken a little bit of a backseat and looked at, what is it that I want to, as a health coach, particularly look at. And I literally come back to this thing, it's metabolic dysfunction, because that's what's causing a huge amount of the illness and the problems that we are seeing and experiencing around us. And the great thing about a lot of the Neolife product is we actually have things that we can give practical information and we can give practical help to people. So what are people actually experiencing at the moment? People are confused and scared, and there's so much information out there, what to believe. And also there's a huge fear and scare behind this. They've been told to lower their cholesterol without actually understanding why. And is it necessary to simply lower the cholesterol? And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the rest of the presentation. And that I think you'll find very interesting. So what really is cholesterol? Let's just look at some of the basics and then begin to understand how important this thing of cholesterol is. Some of the key points to understand is that it's essential for the production of hormones throughout our body. And remember, that controls a large proportion of what we do. We're looking at, the hormones related to our metabolic function. We're looking at the hormones related to how we respond, how different parts of our system works. So it has a huge impact throughout our body, and cholesterol is necessary for the production of hormones. It's necessary and important for brain function. And then, we speak a lot about TRNN, important for cell membranes. And that's a vital part of our energy and, our health at the end of the day, that the cell membranes are intact and working correctly as they should be. Cholesterol is produced by the liver, and it's not inherently bad. And in reality, if you didn't have cholesterol, or, you didn't have sufficient, you would actually die without the cholesterol. It plays a major role, not only related to our cardiovascular system, but also in terms of being anti-inflammatory and so on. So the full picture is what's really important for us to look at. And that, remember that not all cholesterol is the same. You're generally given this figure of your total cholesterol. And it's, today we can't go into a lot of detail about that, but we'll look at the basic things. It's effectively looking more at what it's made up of in terms of the different components of the cholesterol, the proportions of it, and the quality of it, which is what's really important. And, we could do a whole series on that, just looking at cholesterol and the different types. And, we're just looking at part of the picture here. So in breakdown, we look at the LDL, so the low-density lipoprotein. That's a carrier that can also become pretty problematic when it becomes damaged. And that's what also causes a fair amount of the damage and problem that we have. The HDL, the high-density lipoprotein, it's protective in nature, and it helps remove excess cholesterol. So that part of the cholesterol actually has an important function to play. And then the triglycerides, related to excess energy, fats, and it's a fat storage marker, and also related to how the cholesterol is moved around in the blood. And all of those things are important in combination. And also the ratios of each of these things. It's not just the total. And that's the thing, is that we've historically been given, and even if you look at Discovery currently, they are beginning to look at the breakdown of the different parts of this whole picture of cholesterol, not just a figure that it's got to be below 5. Look at the combination and the ratios, and also the quality and the types and what's happening with your cholesterol, which is important. So there's a bigger picture to the whole thing than just the total cholesterol that we have historically always looked at. And it's about a balance and quality, and not just total cholesterol, as I've said. So the real issue really is that inflammation changes everything. And, if you've listened to me speak a number of times, you'll know that I talk a lot about this thing of inflammation, because so much of what disease is about is as a result of inflammation. The chronic inflammation, some inflammation is good. There's a reason for it very often, and it has a repairing effect. But the chronic inflammation and what's there under the sort of the radar all the time is what actually causes the damage. And also what's causing the problem here in terms of this damage to our cardiovascular system, and not, we always blaming cholesterol. Well, that's what's generally being blamed for it. Inflammation damages the blood vessels, and the body sends the cholesterol down to repair that damage, or to protect the body and cover that. And obviously then you'll get the plaques forming and the blockage of the blood vessels and so on. And then this low-density lipoprotein, the LDL, is oxidized, and that becomes the problem. That's where the damage comes in, and where the vessels and the cardiovascular system itself becomes damaged. And people think, well, it is the cholesterol. cholesterol, and an easy way to look at it is cholesterol is the firefighter. It's not the fire. It's not what's causing the problem. It's responding to a problem and trying to deal with it. And therein lies the basis of the problem. So the actual cause is somewhere else. And that's why I say the whole theory behind a lot of the drugs being used, and we'll talk a little bit about that just now, to deal with cholesterol is simply to stop the production of cholesterol. So you're going to lower a number, but you're not dealing with what's causing the problem. So you're not going to solve the problem. You'll get your cholesterol lowered, your numbers will look good, but are you dealing with the problem? And that's why clinical studies are showing us that even though they've done this for so many years, and it's been one of the most popular and highest selling drugs, certain of the statins have been, and others, and I'm not knocking them completely, I'm just explaining what their role is, and that they are something that stops the production of cholesterol without dealing with the underlying cause of why you've got the damage to your cardiovascular system and the blood vessels. So what causes the damage? And, as we've discussed many times, a lot of the causes relate to the modern lifestyle drivers that we have. And, that's why it's within our control to change it and do something about it. We eat highly processed foods, which create not only a problem from the perspective that we're not getting good nutrition, we are causing a problem in terms of our cardiovascular system and other organs in the body. The excess sugar and refined carbohydrates that we're constantly eating, and just have a look at your diet. Just look closely at the sources. Look closely at what is in your the low-fat foods. Look closely at what's in the food you're eating on a daily basis. And as I've spoken about, the metabolic disorders are caused primarily by that imbalance of the sugar. And you also have heard me speak very often about the blood sugar balancing lifestyle and eating correctly, because that's a basis for correcting a lot of these things. And we'll talk a bit about our product that we've mentioned already, Lipotropic Adjunct, and how it also works in with that. Other things like the seed oils, the way that they're produced, and that they actually become inflammatory themselves. So adding to the whole sugar problem, we've got two inflammatory things that we're taking in, and we're taking way too higher levels of this, particularly if we're frying our foods in very poor quality fats, things like olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. Those kind of things are much better and good fats to be using, and particularly when we're looking at using them within cooking. But just on the basis of using them together with seeds and nuts, good oils and good fats that you can be using from those sources. Chronic stress is another one, and we underestimate how much of a problem chronic stress really is, because it impacts again on hormones. It impacts on our cortisol levels, on our insulin levels, and that again begins to kick in and affect the whole metabolic performance of our body, and of course getting to metabolic syndrome, the diabetes, pre-diabetes, all of those things. And those are the things which bring in a lot of the cardiovascular damage and the problems that we experience. Poor gut health as well, and we must remember that the gut produces a huge amount of our serotonin. So a lot of the problems that we have relating to mood disorders and anxiety and so on relate very much to the gut as well, which then also begins to impact on our overall metabolic health. Nutrient deficiency, we talk a lot about that with Neolife, because so much of our food today is either GMO, genetically modified, or we have foods which are in fact hugely nutrient deficient to what they used to be. So we're not getting out of them the nutrients that we need. And then sleep is a very big thing, because sleep again comes back and impacts in terms of your hormone levels, the insulins, the cortisols, melatonin, etc. So it has a huge impact on that. And that's what we really need to understand, is that's what's driving so much of this problem. And we need to stop blaming simply cholesterol. So what are your customers and the people that you're interacting with experiencing? They say to you, I eat healthy, but I still struggle. I have fatigue, I'm gaining weight, I'm feeling bloated, I have this brain fog, my cholesterol is high, and they have a fear about that, and the fear is driven further by others around them and people focusing simply on the thing, cholesterol is the problem. We need to focus and understand that it's not just that. And this emotional driver causes the fear, and also, I think, provides a lot of the confusion that we have today. We need to shift the message when we're talking to people from lower cholesterol to let's support the body do what it actually needs to do properly. It's not a case of simply lowering the cholesterol, because you're not going to achieve the end objective, and clinical studies show us this. It's not a thing we think, it's a thing we can prove. The key concept here is that we don't just suppress the numbers, we don't just suppress the value of the cholesterol. We need to improve things like fat metabolism. We need to support the circulation. We need to reduce the inflammation, which is causing the majority of this problem at the end of the day with our blood vessels. And we need to support the liver, which produces our cholesterol. So we need to make sure that the liver is functioning properly and correctly. And there's a lot of fatty liver disease and other things that we're seeing today. It's becoming more and more prevalent. And these things work because they're sustainable. They reduce what's causing, and they reduce causing, for instance, other problems. If you just simply stop the cholesterol, it brings upon you a whole lot of other problems and side effects and issues that you have because cholesterol is necessary for a healthy functioning body. And we're looking at healing, not just suppressing a symptom at the end of the day. And that's what's really important to look at, is to actually solve the problem. So it's practical. It's a practical solution, and the framework we look at is 4 pillars of support. Improve fat metabolism, support the liver function, balance homocysteine, which we'll talk about in terms of our product Lipotropic Adjunct as well, and then reduce the inflammation. And in that way, we reduce the problem supposedly related to cholesterol, because if you don't have the inflammation and the issues in the cardiovascular system, the body's not going to have to produce all of that cholesterol to go down and put out the fire effectively. And this sets up the whole product naturally, and our body also into a place that it can heal and remain in a healthy state. So let's look quickly where Neolife then fits in. And we introduce now the product that we've been talking about, this Lipotropic Adjunct. And we need to position this as a support system for fat metabolism and cardiovascular health. We're not talking about lowering cholesterol. We're talking about an overall solution here. It's sustainable, it's a healthy solution, and it's a holistic health solution at the end of the day, so that it works and it's something that you can rely on. You're not just dealing with a symptom, you're solving a problem, and in the long term. So the key benefits of our lipotropic adjunct are that lipotropic factors, the choline and inositol, they help mobilize and utilize the fats more effectively. B6, B12 and the folate are things that support the homocysteine, and homocysteine is in fact in the breakdown of one of the amino acids is something that if it doesn't get metabolized correctly by having sufficient, like the B6, B12 and folate, then begins to cause problems as far as our cardiovascular system is concerned. And then the other thing in betaine, which supports the methylation and B12 absorption, which are then, again, just remember, important for homocysteine and that whole cycle of keeping the cardiovascular system healthy. And then there are the citrus bioflavonoids, which effectively support circulatory health. So the combination of all the ingredients within the lipotropic adjunct all add to producing a healthier cardiovascular system that's supported holistically, instead of just simply stopping something which you would lower a number, but you're not going to impact and improve the whole metabolic process. And with lipotropic, and I use it, as I say, in conjunction with things like a blood balancing diet and nutrition, and of course added inflammatory like omega, which we'll talk a little bit about when we get towards the end. So the simple message, it helps your body process fats properly and protect your blood vessels at the end of the day, so you end up in a much healthier position. So why does this matter? Without these nutrients, fats will be poorly processed, homocysteine will rise, which will then cause the vessel damage, circulation then begins to suffer. And this is the missing link that so many people miss out and don't actually understand about their diets. Very often it's a lack of certain of the vitamins, and we're talking the B6, B12, and the folate, B9, which is really important to make sure we have that, so that we have proper control of our cholesterol and our fat metabolism. We can go into a lot more detail. We've covered basically Lipotropic Adjunct, and this is the information which we've shared earlier, and it's available. It's available on our fact sheets, and you can just use it. You'll find all of this information on the fact sheets, which you can use as background information. I think what I'm trying to do as well with what I've shown you so far is I'm trying to show you a practical way, easy, simple way of getting your message across to people that you talk to. But again, as I say, all the information I'm showing you on this page is in the fact sheets, and you can use them directly from there. I always suggest adding, obviously, omega-3 plus, and it's the inflammation solution, because omega-3 plus is a very powerful anti-inflammatory, reduces your inflammation, supports healthy lipid balance, supports heart and brain health, and has the additional benefit of working with lipotropic adjunct to help process fats, and it can calm the inflammation at the end of the day. So it has a combined effect with the lipotropic adjunct. And again, we have one of the best omegas on the market. It contains the widest range of the omegas in there. We have of the purest that we can have available. It's not rancid. We know that it's a high quality product produced in an incredibly safe and quality way, so that we know we can with confidence prescribe it. And again, the information I'm showing you here is all on in our fact sheets. So again, information you can use, but simply, as I say, the really important part to take away from this is it's anti-inflammatory, supports brain function. It also supports the metabolism, and it's anti-inflammatory. So those are the things which make it such a brilliant product to use in conjunction with your lipotropic adjunct. So it's a very powerful combination using them together. Lipotropic adjunct is really great for the fat metabolism and the circulation support. And then omega-3 comes in with the help in terms of the anti-inflammatory support. So that together you've got a more complete solution, and something that really works in the long term. So the simple, powerful message is that we don't focus on lowering cholesterol numbers alone. That is good to have, but you need to focus on helping the body process the fats properly, support the liver to work properly, protect the blood vessels, and reduce the inflammation. And therein you will have a significant impact on improving your cardiovascular picture overall, rather than just reducing a number, which, yes, it's nice to have a lower number. You'll have that number if you actually provide the solution here. It will give you the number as well, but it will give you a long-term real impact in terms of improving your health through putting the body in a place where it can actually work more effectively and help itself. So we need to reframe how we talk about this and convey the message. We don't say this lowers cholesterol. We say this supports healthy fat metabolism and cardiovascular health. And that's what's valuable. It's not going to just lower a number. It's actually going to have a significant, genuine, real, valuable effect that you will benefit from in the long term. And so, I suggest when you approach your customer, start with Lipotropic Adjunct. If you can add the omega-3 plus, I strongly advise you to, and combine that with lifestyle improvements, like, begin to educate them first about it, like we've spoken about what this does practically, very simply, as I've spoken about it in this presentation. Build a trust with people, and then you can safely recommend these products with confidence. And they work. They genuinely work. And, in closing, and I also just want to talk quickly about two little testimonies or information that I have personally about it. But cholesterol isn't the problem. It's the body's response to a deeper issue. And when we support the body properly, the numbers will often follow. And herein lies the solution, so that we don't just get the numbers down, we actually have a solution that's a long-term solution, and it is something that is valuable, and we know it's not a number down, it's going to add years onto your life. So just a little bit about my story is that I do use Lipotropic as well. My family has a history of high cholesterol. My brothers, my father, all of them have had, and my brothers still do. So there's a family history of it. And for me, it's about the lifestyle that I've lived. I keep my numbers, and even at the age that I am, I still have my cholesterol numbers in range. But then my overall cardiovascular health is also incredibly good, and I remain supremely fit. So, those things, I know personally that it works. And as I say, I do use Lipotropic every now and again, and the Omega as well, because those are what I find produce the best long-term effects. Just an example I wanted to share with you, and I have chatted to the people that I've been coaching, so I think they're okay with me sharing this information. I'm not going to give you specifics about the people, but I think the important thing is, a current example that I have where I've been coaching somebody for 3 months. Yes, I've used the lifestyle improvements, but I've also used the Lipotropic, and I know that they use the Omega as well. So we have a situation where from about 2018, they haven't been able to get the cholesterol level below 7. With the 3 months we've been working with, we've got the cholesterol down to 5.3. So, there is definitely, there is proof it works. And I've seen it myself. I've seen it in more than, just this example, but this is a really current example that I can share with you that just shows you it is a product that actually works and is really good. So thank you very much for spending this time with me. I know we've moved fairly quickly through the stuff, but the recording will become available. My information is there, and I'm happy if you want to contact and you want to ask questions. I'm very happy to answer the questions for you. So thank you very much, and go well. Have a great day.